Welcome to Pretty Lies and Alibis. Let's seek the truth and travel the long road to justice together. What you know, Alibis. Welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi. Good to have you here on this Sunday. Tomorrow's President's Day. I know a lot of you have the day off. My kids are out of school. Looking forward to sleeping in. Been spending the whole day going through a week's worth of testimony in the Adam Montgomery trial. We're going to break that down for you, give you the best part so we're all caught up for next week. The judge said the trial is moving along faster than anticipated, which means we could finish testimony and be at closings by the end of next week. No court tomorrow. It's dark for President's Day, but we're going to get you caught up and let you know what happened this entire week. If you're watching on YouTube, you know the drill. Don't forget to hit subscribe, like the video, share it with your friends, and you can ring my bell if you want notifications every time I upload new content. Just click on that little bell. Music fact of the day, the song The Space Between by the Dave Matthews Band. The song is about a narrator who hopes to meet up with his lover in a place free from the highs and lows that don't always represent the true nature of love. It's a great song. So there was a little bit of a twist in the case last week. There was a woman who called the tip line. This was after the trial was going on. And after she called the tip line, Manchester police told the state the next day. The state said she did come in to provide a statement. And the defense attorney said during the course of the trial, apparently somebody contacted the tip line, was interviewed, and gave information. The state has given us a recording of the interview. I have not gone through it, but we certainly have somebody trying to go through it. I don't know, and I don't need to name this person. I don't know if we'll be seeking to call this person to testify. The judge said that the defense would need to file a motion if they intend on calling this woman as a witness, and also to let this woman know to stop watching the trial. So it'll be interesting to see what's up. A little suspicious. Somebody's calling in the middle of the trial. Seems like maybe this could be a defense witness, so who knows what this is going to be about. I'm sure they are vetting this person over the weekend, seeing who they are, what connections they may have to the case, but interesting. We will see what happens. Throughout the course of today's video, I'm going to be playing some surveillance from Walmart that they introduced into the trial. It's a little lengthy. It's Adam, Kelsey, and Adam's then girlfriend, Kelsey, who has since passed away. They're selling their phones for cash. I'm just going to have that running in the background just to have something to look at other than me. Let's jump in. The car that Harmony was killed in, that Chrysler Sebring, when investigators learned Harmony was missing and they started to try to get some evidence in the case, they found the car in a junkyard. There were car parts all inside. When they searched the trunk of the car, they found the Troll's toothbrush belonging to Harmony. They also took 4 swabs from the trunk, cut a piece of the trunk liner, sent that and the toothbrush to the lab. They also had buccal swabs from Adam and Harmony's mother, Crystal. It was an astronomical number that it was likely the DNA was the biological child of Adam and Crystal never had any other daughters other than Harmony. The next witness is Brian O'Leary. He worked with the last witness to search that Sebring. They searched that car for a total of 2 days. He sprayed the Blue Star, or if you're a forensic files junkie like I've been half my life, the luminol. Blue Star actually works with hemoglobin, which causes that reaction. He goes on to explain that the Blue Star comes in a spray bottle, comes with 3 tablets, and you put those tablets into the spray bottle, mix it up, and then you spray a fine mist over the area you're looking at. You want to be about 2 feet away from what you're spraying. Let that mist gently fall down. You don't directly spray it on there. Then they do a 30-second long exposure picture on a tripod. They add a little light using a flashlight to the area that was sprayed, which then will show that reaction to the Blue Star. They take a second photo showing that just in regular light. If they get a positive, they swab the area. The witness explains it's essentially like a 5-inch long Q-tip. And if it's a dry sample, they'll take some sterile water to dip that swab in. Then they will swirl that Q-tip on top of the area in question. On the exterior of the car, they got no reaction. They did get a possible positive reaction in the interior of the trunk. They will also use a hemastick, which is a strip of paper that also reacts to hemoglobin in blood. This is used really as a backup or confirmation of what that blue star detected. They got 4 potential positives from those. He thought 2 or 3 of them may be false positives. The samples were collected and sent to the lab. Also in the car, they found food wrappers and some food containers. He also helped search the Guilford Street home. That's the home they lived in before they were evicted. He blue starred a section of the basement area, and another time he came back and did another area of the basement. He also did a search at the Union Street apartment. That's the one they moved to after they left the shelter. When they found evidence that needed to be collected, what he would do is essentially admit it into evidence and then take that evidence to someone in the FBI who would actually process it. The next witness was Anthony Bordo. This is the man that lived in those colonial apartments where Adam, Kayla, Harmony, and the boys were sleeping for those few nights. He did testify before a grand jury about the case, lied about selling Adam drugs. In September of 2022, after his grand jury testimony, he was given immunity in exchange for his testimony. The car sat for about 2 years at his in-laws because it wouldn't start. Law enforcement asked about getting the car. Mr. Bordo agreed they could just take it and bring it in for processing. He had known Kayla since 2013, and he knew Adam since August of 2019. One day, Anthony needed a ride to the courthouse to deal with the ticket he had gotten. He called a friend for a ride. They couldn't take him, and the friend knew Adam, got in touch with Adam, and then Adam agreed to take him. When Adam came to pick him up, Kayla and all 3 of the kids were in the car, the 2 boys and Harmony. From then, he said he would see Adam every few days. He admitted he sold heroin and crack to both Adam and Kayla. They would either pay him with cash, sometimes they would pay him with food stamps. On Thanksgiving of 2019, they called, said they had no place to live, so he gave them this car to stay in. He said there was no room in the apartment. He was living with somebody else, and they stayed in that car for 2 days. At that point, he only knew Adam, Kayla, and the boys were in the car. He did not see Harmony. They asked about his Facebook account, his Facebook name, y'all. It was Anthony Tone Capone Badera. At one point, they asked Anthony for a ride to the methadone clinic over Facebook. He said he wouldn't let anybody drive the car. He also said Kayla did not know how to drive a manual. And so when she cranked it to turn on the heat when they were staying in that car in the parking lot those couple of nights, it killed the battery. We know they tried overnight to get some help getting it started. He said the next day, by the time he knew about it, it was already working again. He talked about bringing them Thanksgiving leftovers, and then the next day he bought them a pizza. Before they lost the house on Guilford Street, he bought them food once and took it over there in September of 2019. On cross, they bring up that he didn't want anything to do with the case when first approached by law enforcement in January of 2022. He did see Harmony at the Guilford Street house, and again when Adam took him to court in August. Anthony explains he never had a driver's license, but he did drive without one sometimes. The defense says Kayla told law enforcement that he waved to Harmony while they were staying in the car those couple of nights, and he said he didn't. He said, "How can I wave to someone who isn't in the car?" He said he waved to the boys, and he also mentioned that their boys loved him. They asked if he wanted nothing to do with this investigation, and he said, "The way you're making it sound," he said, "I want to help you guys." The defense asked, "Who do you want to help?" And he said, "The prosecution, to find out who killed that little girl." He doesn't remember going to them when their car broke down to get their things. This was just after Harmony had been murdered. He also said he doesn't know if they stayed in the Colonial Village apartments for 10 days prior to their car breaking down. And that was essentially it for his testimony. The next witness was Detective Ryan Heil with the Manchester PD. He helped with searching Anthony's car. The car was covered in mold. They actually had to wear respirators while searching the car. He did go retrieve items that were taken as evidence. Nothing from the car. One of those items was a large ceiling tile. The next witness was Christina Lubin. That's Kayla's mother. She talks about leaving money in that red cooler, the same one that Adam put Harmony in at one point. She covered it in cardboard and left it out in that common hallway area. Then they talk about when Adam, Kayla, and the boys came to stay for a couple of weeks before going to the shelter. At this point, we know Harmony was deceased. Kayla's mom picked them up at her sister's house. She explains that she repurposes furniture. They ask if she owns a grinder, and she said no. She does remember meeting Harmony. She said she had pigtails and glasses and didn't talk very much, but she was adorable and seemed healthy and fine. The next witness is Katie Swango. She works at the forensics lab. She had buccal swabs from Adam and Harmony's mother, Crystal. There were no known samples from Harmony. She took Harmony's Trolls toothbrush and developed a profile from that. In comparing the DNA from the toothbrush to those buccal swabs from Adam and Crystal, it lined up perfectly, showing that this was the biological child of these two people. The next witness was Scott Riley. He came on to the investigation just after Christmas in 2021. He processed the room at the shelter. They show a work order from the shelter regarding the odor that was apparent every time the heat was turned on. When he went into the attic space, he immediately smelled decomposition. He saw stains on the ceiling tile, so they took a sample of the ceiling tile from the shelter and it was sent to the DNA lab. He said he was sweating profusely while cutting the sample. He voluntarily gave a sample of his DNA for them to have just to rule out any unknown DNA. They brought in a sheetrock worker to testify whose latent fingerprints were found on some of the evidence up in that attic. He had done work at the shelter in the past, obviously ruled out as a suspect, but brought him in just to clear up why his fingerprints were there. The next witness was Ray Laney. He is a detective with the Manchester PD. He helped process Anthony's car. He said they took around 37 items from the car. 6 gave presumptive positives for blood. 1 was a false positive. He also brings out evidence that was taken from the ceiling in the shelter to show the jury. The next witness is Rachel Radwich. She worked with the Manchester PD in the evidence department. She worked with the over 900 pieces of evidence in this case. She would take items that needed testing and needed to be shipped to FedEx. She also testifies about seeing the dark staining from the ceiling tiles and said 2 years later they could still actually smell the decomposition from the tiles as they were taking apart the railing from those tiles. She cut portions of the ceiling tile to send in for testing at the DNA lab. She also worked on securing evidence at the police department. She testified about how they packaged and secured the evidence. The next witness was Kevin McMahon. He's a criminalist at the forensic biology lab. He testified that stains from inside the red cooler that Harmony was in while they stayed at Kayla's mother's house, those were all negative from blood. He tested the ceiling tiles, which were positive for blood. I may butcher this last name, y'all, but the next witness is Martin Orlowicz. He's a criminalist with the Manchester PD Forensic Lab. He found fingerprints that belonged to Adam Montgomery on the ceiling vent, the drywall, as well as the metal framing. Adam's left palm print was found on that drywall panel as well. The next witness was Alan Ackroyd Salas. He's a DNA analyst. He tested 2 samples from the sheetrock and the metal rails confirmed that stain was 1.1 trillion times likely to have come from Harmony and one unknown person. There wasn't enough DNA to show Adam or Kayla as contributors to that. The next witness was Emily Thompson, who worked at Portland Pie with Adam. If you remember, he brought that bag in to work with him. Just can't even fathom that, y'all. She said her memory is fuzzy, but she saw him either bring a bag into the walk-in cooler or take a bag out of the walk-in cooler. The next witness, Cameron Gibney, he also worked with Adam there at Portland Pie. He said Adam did prep work and cooked there. He saw Adam bring the bag in on several occasions and place it on the lower shelf inside that cooler. Sometimes Adam would move it to a different location, but it mainly stayed on that lower shelf. The next witness is Bob Wasson, a former manager at the Home Depot. He brings in a receipt for a 40-pound bag of lime, a fuel grinder, which is why I think they asked Kayla's mom about whether or not she had a grinder, a blade, and a battery. The total on that was $396.35. He paid for that with $400 cash. The next witness was Detective Max Rahill. He helped process the room at the shelter. He also helped process the bathroom there in the shelter, and he got the Home Depot receipts. He verified the ATM receipt from the day Adam went to Home Depot. By the way, Adam withdrew $500 from a Citizens Bank less than a mile from the Home Depot 22 minutes before he went to that Home Depot. Unfortunately, there was no surveillance footage available 2 years later from that Home Depot or the bank. But if you're watching on YouTube and you look here, they had plenty of money in their account. Now, this could have been after like tax returns and they got tax money back, but they have over $6,000 in their account at this point. The next witness is Brittany Bard. That's Travis Beach's ex girlfriend. He testifies later on. She stayed at the Econo Lodge with Adam, Kayla, their two boys, as well as her boyfriend at the time, Travis. Adam and Kayla's room was in her name. At first, they went to a Comfort Inn. However, the security deposit was too high. In the parking lot of that Comfort Inn, Brittany remembers seeing the bag in the stroller. It was between the seat of the two boys. It was pushed down so you could only see the top of it, and Kayla was pushing it. They also show her a photo that she had on her phone of her and Adam and Kayla's boys. She had visited them at the apartment on March 1st of 2021. The next witness is the maintenance man for the Union Street apartment. He testified about a work order for a clogged drain in that bathtub. That took place on February 27th of 2021. He said while he was there working, Adam was pacing around outside the bathroom door and not saying much. He came back a second time to fix lights that had been removed from the ceiling. This is when Adam thought the police were spying on him. He said the wires were not ripped. The lights were hanging by the wires and they still worked. He also cleaned out the apartment after Adam and Kayla were evicted. The refrigerator, according to him, was thrown away. The next witness is Brendan Middleton. He's an inmate at the Hillsborough Department of Corrections. He's the one that actually rented that U-Haul for Travis, which was then given to Adam. He had never met Adam or Kayla. When the U-Haul was returned, it had been driven a total of 133 miles. It was rented on March 3rd, 2021 at 5:49 p.m. and it was returned on March 4th at 1:47 p.m. The total time that they had that van was 19 hours and 57 minutes. The next witness is Rose Smith. She's the one that gave rides to and from the clinic. She started taking Adam and Kayla December 12th of 2019. The day this incident happened, Adam, Kayla, and their boys all went to the clinic. She sat with their boys while Adam and Kayla were inside. Then she jumps to a ride she gave in 2020. Kayla had a black eye. She said she would never forget that day. You can tell this was very haunting to her, still visibly upset recalling this incident. When she took them back to the apartment after their appointment, she gave Kayla her phone to call for help. At this point, Kayla was in the front passenger seat and Adam was walking away from the vehicle. When he turned around and saw what was going on, she said he became enraged. He reached in the car and twisted the phone from her hand and said, "You're not giving that to my wife." The witness told Adam she loved him, begged for him to give the phone back, and said she was just trying to help them. She gave the phone back to Kayla. She reported the incident to her boss and said she did not want to pick the two of them up anymore. After that incident, she carried pepper spray. It scared her so much. The next witness was Travis Beach, the man who helped Adam get that U-Haul. He testified about Adam's demeanor at the time when Adam and Kayla and him and his girlfriend were at that hotel. He said Adam was pacing back and forth and kept saying over and over, "I effed up." He said Adam did not allow him to speak to Kayla. The next witness would be Tara Hilbert, who was a manager for the apartments. She said her kids and Adam and Kayla's kids would sometimes play in the parking lot of that complex. Adam had been to her house on a couple of occasions. She fed them. She said they grilled out, so it must have been spring or summer. Adam did mention Harmony to her and said he missed her. He said he hadn't seen her in a couple of years because Harmony's mother took her back to Massachusetts. Tara also drove Kayla to a hotel with her kids because Adam had beaten Kayla really bad. She said her face was very bloody. They were evicted from the apartment, and she explains that anything left is put into garbage bags and then taken to the dump, and appliances are switched out. The next witness was Detective Adam Bergeron Rosa. There was some testimony about taking some of the piping from that apartment. If you remember, we talked a bit about what happened in that bathroom of that apartment when he was wanting to dispose of the body. So he just set that up. We didn't hear any results of what was in those pipes, if anything. The next witness is Jessica Guerin. She dated a friend of Adam's in 2021. She said her and Adam talked about their kids several times, but when she would ask about Harmony, he would change the subject very quickly, never mentioned her by name either. She asked where Harmony was. Adam said he took her to her mother. The next witness, there was an arrest warrant actually issued for this person. They were scheduled to testify on February 14th. The woman had a restraining order out on someone. She texted the state that they could issue an arrest warrant, but she was afraid for her and her kids' lives. They didn't show her face on camera. She lived in the shelter at the same time as Adam and Kayla. Often saw Kayla with bruises on her face, her arms, legs, and abdomen. She also went to their Union Street apartment. She said Adam was worried somebody was spying on him and also worried about the city bus that drove by their apartments. She said at first Kayla would make excuses for the bruises, blaming it on her kids. But once they were alone, Kayla said Adam was hitting her and she wanted to leave, but she was afraid. The next witness, we've been watching some of that footage here on YouTube. It was a man who works for that Walmart in Manchester, and he just testified about them selling the phones for money. By the way, this Walmart footage, this was the day before it was announced that Harmony was missing. Kelsey, who was seen in that video, the girlfriend of Adam, she actually died in March of 2022. They point out on the video, Adam doesn't have his jacket on by the end of the video, and they don't know what he did with that jacket. The next witness was somebody from the Cyber Crimes Division of the Manchester Police Department. He extracted data from the Samsung cell phone that was pawned at the Walmart. And in fact, Adam's Facebook was still logged into that phone when it was found. And it showed messages between Adam and Travis Beach. Again, Travis is the one who helped get that U-Haul. Travis was asking about where they dropped that U-Haul off because he had a text saying it was due back at 2 and asked what was going on. Adam says, I dropped it off on Willow, my word. He says, please don't message me stuff like this on Facebook again. The last witness was Manchester Police Detective Craig Stanzel. He found Adam sleeping in a car in a park, which is frequented by homeless people on December 31st of 2021. Harmony's disappearance was announced that very day. They showed the body cam footage from that. The jury wasn't allowed to hear the audio. However, I'm going to upload that entire encounter on my YouTube page once I get it edited and get that audio improved a bit, so you can look for that. So that's not a verbatim recap of the week, but just wanted to kind of point to all the major evidence that was given last week in court. Looks like we're winding down. So we'll see what happens with this witness who called into the tip line. I'm very curious if they're going to allow this woman to testify. On one hand, maybe she didn't know any of this was going on until she saw the trial. On the other hand, it's a little suspicious. You know, you watch a few days worth of the trial and then you don't call in. However, it could be somebody who doesn't know Adam. We just don't know yet. They didn't specify. So I'm going to keep an eye out for that. If I hear any updates, I'll probably do a YouTube short before I actually do the episode on any further testimony. I'm going to give it a couple of days. As you can see, I'm not going super deep like I normally do in these cases. But that's it for today. I hope you guys have a good rest of your Sunday, and we'll see you soon.